Hi, I'm Stephanie Sage. Welcome to the Stephanie Sage Show. I am so honored today to have a dear friend that's going to come on with me. It's Dan Stelp. He owns Sandler Training. He has 28 years of experience leading, training, and coaching high-performing individuals. He has risked everything and started over twice in his career. In 1993 as a benefits broker, and again in 2005 with the Sandler Training Office. He works with presidents, owners who sell, and peak performer sales professionals, who are doing well but want to push through to the next level in their career. And Dan is also the author of 3 books. The first one is The Reunion, which he wrote back in 2011. And then the next one is Another Reunion he wrote in 2013. And the last reunion he did in 2020. And today he's going to talk not only about these 3 books that he's written, but also about his newest book, Living a Life of Significance, which I think is really important right now. You know, just over the past 2 years, it's been really stressful for a lot of people. And a lot of people have been really searching about what's their purpose. Are they making a difference? Are they being significant in leading their lives? So we're going to discuss some more of that as I bring Dan on. Hey, Dan.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
I am doing better than I deserve.
Oh, you're wonderful. You deserve the best.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah. So how's life been going?
You know, it's been a weird 20 months, but I'd like to say there, and I mean it, there's a lot of better that's come out of it than, good. So, it just is. That's the way I look at it. Instead of labeling it, good or bad, it just is. And that allows the good and the not so good to manifest itself.
Yeah, well, I think you're similar to me. And no matter what happens in my life or people around me, I always try to see the best in the situation, or what is the positive out of something. Yeah. Because what's the purpose if you can't do that? Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, so everything's been good. You moved offices. You moved down to the first floor, I guess.
We did. Yeah, we've been in this building on Lowell Avenue in Overland Park for about 16 years. And about 6 months ago, we moved from the 6th floor to the first floor. And as much as I hated to miss my view up there, we really like being on the first floor. We got all new space, and it's just more set up for post-pandemic versus pre-pandemic. So I feel like we're really set to keep going here.
So speaking of the pandemic, I mean, what are some positives that you've seen come out of the pandemic? I mean, there's a lot of scariness that's still going on for some people, and, some depression, and they say drug addiction, alcoholism's up, etc. But what are some of the positives?
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to take away from people who have lost loved ones or maybe are struggling with, still struggling with COVID. So that's not what this is about. But on the other hand, there's a lot of people that it has opened up their eyes to certain things. We were all kind of locked down for a minimum of 10 weeks. And, some of us are still kind of locked down. We're working from home, whether we want to or not. But the reality of it is it allowed us to just say what's important to me and what's not important to me. It's the first time in my lifetime that the whole world kind of stopped at once.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces of, in different parts of the world, where things have changed, but we all kind of had, it was an equalizer. And it also was an equalizer, whether you made a lot of money or very little money, everybody had to stop. So we were already writing the 3rd book last year, and we finished in August. But I think people did take stock in their lives. It's like, what am I doing? What have I been doing? What I want to do. And being able to just kind of slow down, or sometimes just have things taken away from us, it made us say, now, is that important to me, or is that not important to me? Some of the things taken away, frankly, weren't that important. And so when the opportunity came back to get it, I said, maybe I don't need that anymore. Maybe I want to, something else over here is more important to me.
Right. Well, I know personally, Connor came to me when the whole thing started, and he said, Mom, do you see a difference in yourself? And I go, what are you talking about? Because he always jokes that I have the deer in the headlights look, because, you're so busy, and you're not really listening, right? And so he would tease me about that. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I do see a difference, because I feel like I'm actually living more in the moment, seeing things more clearly. I'm paying attention more like I should, instead of just, you're just dashing off, going here and there, and you're so harried and so busy. And it really made me realize just the importance of taking time to spend time with family. Not that I didn't, but just being in the moment more. And then also reevaluating how I'm spending my time
Yeah.
and who I'm spending it with. And I don't mean that in a negative, mean way,
No, I
but
didn't
you
think
do
that
have
way
to
at
set
all.
your priorities and what is your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah. I mean, just it just kind of is. Some people are fountains and they
Mhm.
pour into us, and others are drains, and they got
Yeah,
to
they
suck it
can
out.
be.
So so it gave us a chance to maybe get away from some of the drains for a while, and but
Mhm.
also, just that doesn't mean I don't spend time with them at all, but maybe I don't
Mhm.
spend as much time, or as Joe Osteen says, you love them from afar.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like ignore them, or it's just like, hey, I
Mhm.
don't need to spend that much time because it's
Yeah.
exhausting to me, and
Yeah.
it's keeping us, frankly, from our destiny. Our
Mhm.
job is not to make them feel better about things that they don't want to feel better about.
And that's a
So
good point. Yeah, and
yeah,
I think, part of my show is I was just, did a lot of thinking about truth and what's your purpose and just trying to be more mindful about your activities because, whether, you're a business owner, I own a business, there's people who are doctors, lawyers, whatever your profession is, you can say that's your purpose, but I think in all of us, we have a deeper purpose, that little voice up in your head that there's some other purpose that you're here for humanity reasons. Like we all have a way that we can help other people or make the world a better place. That I feel like we all need to be searching, to try to find that and do what we can to raise people up, lend people a hand, and just help out our fellow um, humans here on Earth because it's a rough place at times right
yeah,
now.
it is. Yeah. It made me think of, and not everybody always knows what this is, but I truly believe every person has at least one superhuman power.
Mhm.
And the problem is we don't always know what that is. I actually spoke
Mhm.
to the KU Business School just a couple
Mhm.
days ago, and these were basically 19 and 20-year olds. And so,
Mhm.
and I said, now I'm going to share something with you, but you may not know what it is yet. Okay, but I just want you to know you've got it. You just may not know what it is yet. And I didn't know what mine was till I was 41. So
Oh.
I mean, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I wasn't, doing well before then. But once I found it, it was kind of like,
Mhm.
wow, I need to be doing more of this. It's almost like when you say, I never feel more in my moment or
Mhm.
used when I'm doing a certain thing. So, but I think it all kind of starts with, instead of what you do, who you are.
Mhm.
And it could be, I just said I wish I would have known this when I was 18 or 19 years old, or 19 or 20. And the reality of it is, most of you aren't going to do anything with this, but you at least
Yeah.
knew about it.
Well, you're still trying to find yourself in your 20s, I think. You know what I mean? You're just getting your act together, right?
Yeah, but the
Mhm.
ruts aren't as deep when you're that age. It's
That's true.
3 years old and you're going, oh, so I shouldn't have been doing that. That's not been supporting me. So, but like, it's just like a word. It could be
Mhm.
just purposeful was a word you
Mhm.
used. It could be kind. It could be
Mhm.
hardworking. Just who do I? What's my personal brand and who I am versus these things I do. And what's interesting
Mhm.
about that is, once you become that person, more of that person, you attract these things into your life.
Mhm.
You attract
Yeah.
different, at their age, attract different boyfriends and girlfriends. You
Yeah.
attract, different positions. You attract different friends. And so, it's
Mhm.
not too early to do it, but it's also, like I said, a lot of you you're going to listen to this, you're not going to do anything about it, but a few of you will.
Is that what you told them that each of you have a superhuman power?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know they do. I don't know what it is,
Right.
but everybody, all of us are unique. And there's just certain things
Mhm.
that you might say, well, someone else can do that too. But yeah, okay, but
Mhm.
a lot of people can't do that. And
Right.
it's effortless for you, and you feel
Mhm.
like you have an impact when you do it. And you just, it's
Mhm.
just when you feel like you're most satisfied with what.
Mhm. So what is your superhuman power?
Well, the main one is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have wanted to do this, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to say that I'm still not nervous, because I am, but I
Mhm.
just know that this is kind of what God put me on this earth to do. But I didn't even
Mhm.
start doing it until I was 41.
Right.
And then another thing, and when it comes to writing books, I'm very skilled at it, and I can do it very quickly, but I don't
Mhm.
enjoy it.
Mm.
So even though I've written 3 books, I mean, I'm good at it and I'm skilled at it, but I didn't enjoy it. But I enjoy,
Right.
like, this is like, like time just flies by.
but you love to teach people. And like for me personally, that's why I started my show. I love interviewing people,
Yeah.
talking to people, learning about, hearing their stories, hearing about what their superhuman powers are. I've just never put it in those terms, but everybody has that gift, and I've met so many just wonderful people. And what I found out when I started interviewing for guests is that I'm not alone in wanting to do something to
Right.
raise the frequency, raise the bar with humanity, to because I totally believe in the power of manifestation. I mean, several years ago, I was sitting in my office and I was working on a business plan, and I thought, why is it that really we accomplish pretty much most of the goals that we set every year? I mean, it's not like magic. You got to do the hard work and all that behind it. But, and then I started really thinking that and reading some books about that, you attract what your thoughts are or your intention is, even just by writing stuff down, like your goals.
Mhm.
And just planting that seed out to the universe can bring those things to you. Now you have to do the hard work behind. It's not just magic wand. I wish it was that easy, but what I'm saying, I do believe in that.
I mean,
Negative thoughts, push those away. Like I just try to, just think positive things, and
yeah.
it's a lot of truth.
It could be, that you're an interviewer. That's your superhuman skill, or that you are interested in people. That could be your superhuman skill. Could be that you're really into accountability, first and foremost yourself. There's goals, but then there's things that have to happen to make those goals. Your point, it's not just magical.
No.
But if I can't even see it, it's probably not going to happen. So it's one thing to be able to see it. It's another thing to be held accountable and have good habits and stuff like that to get there.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, at least we're on the same page here, aren't we?
Yeah, I knew we were.
So now what made you start? Your first book was The Reunion. So now what was your pose in writing that book?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm going to give you an honest answer, even though it may not sound that great. But so 2008 was when I really sensed that my superhuman power is speaking. And so I started to become more intentional about that. I started calling people that were further along than I was. And every single time they asked me the same question: do you have a book? The answer was no, no, and no. And I was like, what is with the book? What is with the book? This is frustrating. So anyway, they said, well, basically, I'm going to try to do this so you can see it. If you don't have a book, it's this big. But if you have a book, it goes to this. And you still have to get to here to get selected, but it just helps separate you.
Oh, so that helps you be a speaker then, is by writing a book.
Yeah, so it was nothing more. I'm just being totally honest. It was nothing more than that. I was just like, okay, that's the stepping stone. I'm going to get going on it. So I did. And so I have a co-author named Jim Mathis, and I was sharing. I went to him because he already. Well, the interesting part was all these people are saying you need to have a book, and then I'm looking around and I know all these people that have written a book. Like you can't make this stuff up, right? So I started talking to him, and Jim was one of them. He'd already written 2 or 3 books, and I just thought he was going to be just a resource to me. Like where do you go for this? Where do you get proofing? I had no idea. And then after I told him what I wanted to do, he goes, I've been wanting to write a book about that. I go, really? He goes, what if we wrote it together? I'm like, done.
Better than I have help.
I was so like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, and so it really worked out well because there's 4 main characters in all the books, but they're also very different. We patterned it after the DISC assessment, which is personality profile.
Oh, the 4 different personalities.
Yeah, like DISC does it, Culture Index does it, Colby does it, Color Code, all those, and I'm not saying they're all the same, but it's all based on 4 quadrants. So because we wanted there to be somebody, if somebody read, there was somebody in there, they go, I'm resonating with that person. And there's someone else in there that you're like, I don't like that person. Because it really is about you growing. The characters are characters. So he and I are complete opposites. So I took 2 and he took 2. And really to give these characters a lot of depth because he and I are so different.
Yeah. Well, I always say we drive each other crazy just being ourselves. because your type of personality may annoy like the analytical person, because we're just like, oh, the expressive, that I am.
yeah, we don't need to worry about all that right now. Well, if we don't have time to do it right, we don't have time to do it over. I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, so we annoy the other people that aren't like you, but you just can't help yourself because that's who you are, and
Yeah.
they annoy you or whatever, it's just
Well,
like,
and to be able to embrace that, hey, I do have some strengths, you have some strengths, but your weaknesses are my
Mhm.
strengths and my weaknesses are your strengths. And let's just, let's embrace that.
Right,
Instead of,
exactly.
I cannot get the camera right here. Instead of doing this, embrace it. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So so then I guess did you start get speaking engagements after you wrote your book
I
then? It
did.
was
Yeah.
magic, really magical?
It wasn't magical, but it was true what they said. Now this is
Yeah.
back in 2000. Now, fast forward,
Uh-huh.
and the book is done in 2011. It took me a while to figure out. At first I thought I was going to write a sales book, and then I went to Sandler
Mhm.
Corporate. And they said you can't write a sales book unless you include us. I'm like, what? So then it just kind of morphed into
Mhm.
this. One thing that had happened when I got in this business 15 years ago, which has been 2005,
Mhm.
is this was what I call a halftime career move for me. So I'd had a prior business for
Mhm.
12 years with three other people, and I
Mhm.
was successful at it.
Okay.
Um, but the
That
one
was that
thing
the
that,
benefits broker? I was looking at your bio. You were
yes,
a benefits broker? Okay.
yeah, I've only had three jobs in 35 years. So and
Wow.
two of them I was an owner in, but this was a good business, and I met a lot of people, but I always just knew inside that this wasn't what I was going to do till I was 65. I loved
Mhm.
selling. I liked being an owner, but just schlepping through medical insurance plans, and it just wasn't my
Mhm.
thing. But nothing manifested itself, and then I was
Mhm.
successful at it, so I just kept going. I mean, we were having kids, and my wife was staying
Mhm.
home. I mean, I needed to work.
Yeah.
So, but then when this came around, and about a year into it, I'm like, you know what? I'm in my halftime,
Mhm.
because I'd been a Sandler client for 10 years before I became a Sandler, franchisee.
Uh-huh.
And so I was what they call running parallel with this. It wasn't like I just stopped and started. I already had some experience, even though I didn't see it
Mhm.
at the time. So then I'm coaching salespeople suddenly, and there's a lot of them that in the same place. They're like, I don't even know how I got here. You know,
Mhm.
I, I'm a CPA, or I've got an MBA, or I'm an architect, and somehow I'm
Mhm.
selling stuff. I don't even. And I realized that they were in their half times.
Mhm.
So then the book became about that too, is to, instead of to kind of fight it or just go, what's going on, just to
Mhm.
embrace it and say, this is my significance. These other roles I had, I might have been successful at, but
Mhm.
this is the role where I'm going to have impact on people.
Right, exactly.
And
Well, and
that's
we
where
touched on that before the show is that, no matter what your career is, you probably have a whole another purpose that has to just do with, you outside of work and helping using your superpower
yeah,
to help society, help people, or whatever your gift is, that you more people need to be looking for that or listening for that little
yeah.
voice in your head. I've learned that you should listen to that. That's your higher self telling you, you
And
know?
that's what the first book is about. All the books are anchored by high school class reunions. So it's
Oh,
really simple to kind of understand. The first book starts at age 38, ends at 48. And that's
okay.
frankly the age that a lot of this starts to happen.
Hmm.
And then in the book, these are not anybody. These are fictitious
Mhm.
characters. But we have two characters that are, just trying to get more of what they have, thinking that will make them happy. And then we have two
Mhm.
others that say, I'm going to take a chance. I think this is where even though it's risky, this is what I'm meant
Mhm.
to do. And you kind of learn through the characters that way.
Uh-huh. That's really cool. I like that. Now, why do you think that age span from with 20 or 38 to 48 is so monumental in people taking that second look at themselves and
It's a
what they're
really good
doing and
question.
why are you here? What's your purpose?
Yeah. So, if you think most people graduate and they're about 23, and then they
Mhm.
retire when they're 65. So what is that? 43 years. So you fast
Mhm.
forward 20 years and you're kind of right in that demographic. And
Mhm.
then the other thing that's happened is they have some life experiences, maybe, they have a family or starting a family. They've had maybe two or three different career roles.
Mhm.
They've maybe had some success, maybe more than they ever expected, but there's
Mhm.
still that emptiness. And so that's
Mhm.
why that's where it all kind of starts, is that that demographic of 38 to, I would say 38 to 55. It's rare that somebody 35 is quite there. It can happen, but definitely when you get in their 40s.
Well, probably because you're so gosh darn busy. You get married, you have kids, and then your life is almost like a blur because you're just so in the moment of working, building your career, raising your children, and that's so time consuming that you just kind of get lost in your own life a little bit, as if
Yeah,
that makes
you do.
sense.
Well, you're just hanging on by your fingertips, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and then, but the other thing is just having that life experience. If you've been
Hmm.
working, like if you're 38, you've been working 15 years. I mean,
Hmm.
you've had some things that went really well and you've had some things that didn't go well. And you just
Hmm.
have the perspective. And even the things that didn't go well
Hmm.
are still part of your destiny. Like
Hmm.
one of the couple of things I did, I'm just like, oh, what was that all about? Ooh,
Hmm.
wish I could do a redo on that. That did not end well. And then I get in a role, that
Yeah.
significance is, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I'm
Hmm.
drawing all kinds of, revelations and information that I could share from that really bad time to
Yeah.
actually help somebody. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together, as opposed to that was a wasted 2 years. What was
Yeah.
that about? So anyway,
And sometimes when you're in the midst of some bad experience in your life, you don't ever want to relive it again, but then, or go through it again. But then when you reflect, it all comes around. You're like, okay, that was actually kind of beneficial for me, even though it was pretty painful at the time. But
yeah,
if you have the right mindset, that's just more wisdom under your belt that you can use moving forward or helping other people.
yeah, it could be a coworker, it could be a
Hmm.
client, a prospect, a board you're on. I mean, there's just so many different touch points that these
Hmm.
experiences, if we don't have to, I don't have to stay back there, but I'm choosing to look at the things that, what did I
Hmm.
learn?
Yeah.
What were the lessons learned? As long as you learn something, it wasn't a waste of time. But when you're just outside of that, you just go,
Yeah.
I'm glad that's over,
Yeah.
off to the next thing. And I'm going to pretend that never happened. And it did happen.
Yeah. Well, when helping my mother, as Al and I were caregivers for her recently, I am not, I always joke, like, I'm not like a caregiver personality. Like, it's just not me. Like, when I'm sick, I just want to be left alone. Like, just leave me be. And the joke in our family, I tell my kids, oh, just take some ibuprofen, you'll be fine. I mean, not that I don't love my family, but I'm just not, it's not in my nature to be
Yeah,
real
well, that's
doting.
what you would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're
But
you're
then,
giving what you want.
yeah, but see, then my mother, I had no choice. And the first time in my life, I could not stay mentally strong like I normally can. I cried a lot, and I quit apologizing. She was strong. I didn't, but you know what? I learned to be a caregiver, and I'm a better person for it now. And I just feel like the gods or the universe were saying, "You're going to master this, little lady," you know. So,
Well, and it
so
wouldn't be
I did a lot of
surprised.
things that I was uncomfortable with, but I'm happier for it. I'm a better person for it, and it'll help me be stronger the next time. Hopefully I don't have to go through something that traumatic.
Yeah.
But I'll be there. Easier for me to be there for people when they're not well, I
Well, and
guess.
even if it's not an illness, right? I mean,
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
that muscle got strengthened, and it's not.
Hmm.
It could be someone who went through a divorce. It could be someone who
Right.
filed bankruptcy. It could be someone who lost their job. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, I have a feeling you're better at it than you think you are. Just guessing, but you had to really work those muscles, right? Because it
Hmm.
was time.
Get
But
outside your comfort zone. But that's
that's
how
going
you
to keep
grow.
on giving. It's going to keep on giving.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's always a silver lining in every cloud. You just gotta look for it.
And that can be a superhuman power, to be able to just separate. I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of
Yeah.
people can't,
Yeah.
but like, now wait a second, you're right, this isn't good.
Hmm.
But what
Yeah.
about this opportunity? Or
Hmm.
I mean, it's just been really kind of interesting for me, since I work with a lot of different business owners on my sales and sales leader
Yeah.
training company, that we work lots of different industries. And it's really interesting to just see how people have like flexed and pivoted, and
Hmm.
just like, just said, screw it, we're gonna give this a whirl. And
Like through
it's,
this whole pandemic, you mean? Yeah, I think it's fascinating that how creative. Well, entrepreneurs tend to be really creative, think outside the box people anyway, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
agreed.
But Yeah, you probably did get to see some really cool things go on,
It was
especially because
inspiring.
being a mentor with hemp. I mean, did you see a lot of pivoting there with a
Yeah,
lot of
so
business owners?
right. That's another
Mhm.
thing that I do is I have a mentee that I'm
Mhm.
devoted to, but then they do it. Well, it was hard during COVID, but in general they do a good job of
Mhm.
exposing us to each other. Mentees, mentors, and then they have
Mhm.
what are called fellows, which are
Yeah.
people who have graduated. And but these people stay in the program for decades. It takes
Mhm.
3 years for a mentee, and then there's some fellows that have chosen not to be mentors, but they're fellows, and they've been in it for 15
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
And so what's really cool is you kind of get to see that life cycle. I've only been in it 8, but
Mhm.
I've seen that life cycle just in 8 years of certain
Yeah.
companies. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So then what motivated you to do your second book, the another reunion?
Another, yeah, I know we're not very creative. We figured, there's a book called The Shack. We can be the reunion, and it was a bestseller. But anyway,
Yeah.
so well, interestingly, when um, Jim and I first sat down to talk about the book, I said something and he affirmed it. I said, I really see this being a trilogy.
Mhm.
And he didn't say trilogy. He goes, I was thinking the same thing, that it's more than one book. So what happened was we had it in our heads that it would be, the first book is 38 to 48, and the second book is age 58 to 68. Now,
Mhm.
significance starts to change at that point because you're kind of pre or potentially post retirement. And
Mhm.
especially a lot of guys, they kind of
Mhm.
lose their mojo when they retire. Like it
Yeah.
was
Well, I
all
think
about,
it'd be kind of boring. Like, what do I do with myself?
yeah, and it's all about what they did, and it wasn't enough about who they are. So we
Right.
started to kind of pattern, like what are the things that you think about in that. So we always saw 3 books, and then I always saw the last book as the legacy book,
Mhm.
because now there's some characters, just not spoiler alert, that pass away, get remarried, just normal stuff. But at the last book, there are 2 of the originals still alive. And
Mhm.
so this is what we call the legacy book. So the choices they made, how did it impact the next generation? So the third book is really about this second generation, which are between the ages of like 29 and 52.
Mhm.
So they kind of rise up in the last book because now they're the legacy.
Right.
So that was really nothing more than that, but we were just
Mhm.
more like ready to go with the second book, and then
Yeah.
it took us, what was it, 7 years. But
Wow.
once you get one, the first book's always the most exciting because you're like, we got a book,
Uh-huh.
oh my god, and I'm not going to say the second book wasn't exciting, but it wasn't as exciting. And
Uh-huh.
then once you get 2, 3, it's like, But
Right.
we both just wanted to make sure that we were doing it because we were ready and not just doing it to knock it out.
Right.
And we were both 7 years older. I'm
Yeah.
57, Jim's 74. I mean, it's amazing
Mhm.
what 7 years can do.
I know, it's crazy. And did you guys self-publish your books or did you go through a publisher?
We did self-publish. Yep,
Oh,
yep,
okay. Is
yep.
that
All
pretty
3.
easy process? I
It
mean,
is
did
very
you?
easy. Yeah.
Mhm.
And neither one of us, Jim's goals were just he likes to write. I mean, he loves
Uh-huh.
to write. He's a musician and artist.
Oh,
He
wow.
enjoys it. And my goal was to just get speaking gigs.
Yeah.
So we both wanted to do it, but for different reasons. But
Mhm.
yeah, so it turned out good.
Cool. Very valid reasons though, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it was a
I've
goal.
always loved to write. I love to read. I could read all day, every day if I had the time. And I used to write a lot when I was a young girl. I would write stories, and actually, at one time, I wanted to actually be. I thought it'd be cool to be like a news anchor or a journalist or
I
something.
did
So
too.
yeah, but then I ended up in restoration. So I don't know.
You know what? We actually both would have probably been really good at it. Because I'm thinking like what we're doing right now,
Mhm.
you and I could be the evening show. I mean, let's face it.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, how is this different? It's not. But I remember being
No.
in college and thinking, oh, that'd be really cool to be an anchor man, But I thought,
Yeah.
but how do you do that? And I just graduated with computer science,
Yeah.
which would have
Where'd
been
you go
easier.
to college at? Where'd you go to college
I
at?
graduated from Wayne State College up in Nebraska. It's a little state school with
Oh,
about 4,000 students.
okay. See, now my mother was from Nebraska. She grew up on a farm. Well, it's about an hour and a half north of Norfolk, but the town she ended up going to high school in was Creighton, Nebraska, not the Creighton University, but
No, I've actually been there.
oh, you have? And then she grew up like it was like Orchard and Brunswick and all the little
Yeah,
towns kind of
Orchard's
right
up
there.
by like
Mhm.
O'Neill.
Yeah,
Probably O'Neill's where they went
mhm.
shopping. But
Probably. Yeah, or Yankton, South Dakota.
yes, so Wayne is just the same north as Norfolk,
Mhm.
but it's just
Okay.
30 miles to the east.
Oh,
So there
okay.
was a bunch of kids like from Creighton, Orchard,
Mhm.
O'Neill that went to college
Yeah.
down. That's why I know where those places are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now her brother went to actually it was there like a Methodist university in Omaha, like is it called Westland maybe? I'm trying to think.
Wesleyan, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
Lincoln.
think that's where my uncle went to college. He didn't go
Yep,
to
yep,
Nebraska University or University of Nebraska, what have you.
yep.
But yeah, is where she grew up. She actually went to a one room schoolhouse, an old rural schoolhouse. Rode her horse at times. Can you believe that?
No, I
Like
mean I
she's just
can, but I can't. You know, it's a
78 years
story.
old. She passed away, but look, people don't believe that. But like she didn't like it. She didn't have any kids her age into school. And then finally she said, I just can't, I got to go to high school at Creighton because I just can't do this anymore. So her
And
parents let her,
Creighton's not very
yeah,
big. I mean, I want to say
no,
1,000 people.
yeah, yeah. So
Interesting.
we don't go up that way anymore, after my grandparents passed away. And that is a long drive. It's like 6 hours up
Mhm.
there from Kansas City. But
It is. It's a long drive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. My
Well,
grandpa
cool.
would always say Nebraska was God's country.
And, in a lot of ways it is. It's just
Mhm.
not everybody's God's country.
No.
But I think it is. I mean, I like it. I still like to go. I have my family up there. I have a sister and
Yeah.
her grown kids and their families. And then I have my mom and dad up there and my wife's dad and mom. So, yeah, we get up there quite a bit. I'm probably driving. I'm not driving up for Thanksgiving, but I'm going to take my mom to a doctor's appointment in December. And I always like, it's just kind of, it's what we know, right? And it just always kind of brings me down where I belong.
Yeah.
Opposed to,
Well, we always love going back to see our grandparents because it's just like it was such stability in our lives for us back then, and just the warmth and love, and just there were such kind of good people.
yes,
And we have a lot of warm memories, from spend a lot of holidays up that way.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
So what brought you to Kansas City then? Like your first job or?
No, I was 29 when I moved here, and
Mhm.
been married a couple of years. And Lisa is a clinical psychologist. Well, she
Mhm.
was becoming a clinical psychologist, and she needed to
Mhm.
do a 1 year residency down here. So, she needed to do a 1 year residency, and we ended up getting one here. And so
Mhm.
we decided instead of just coming down for a year and moving back to Omaha, we just decided to make a go of it.
Mhm.
She was expecting at the time, and so we decided, let's just get a house. And
Mhm.
our house in Omaha and just give it a whirl, because
Mhm.
if it doesn't work out, we can always move back. And we've been down here 28, almost 29 years. So
Mhm. Now it's home.
it's home. Yep. We
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and driving to Omaha, that's not a bad drive. What, almost little 2 hours and 45
About
minutes?
3. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I can get to my sister's house in about a little over 3, but like
Uh-huh.
where our parents live is closer to 4.5. They're more
Oh,
up
yeah.
towards
Yeah.
Creighton and that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm amazed that there's a lot of Nebraska people that buy houses down at the Lake of the Ozarks.
There
And I
are.
just think, wow, that's a long drive. I mean, for us, it's like from the lake, like to get back here to Kansas City is what for us 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe. But
They
that
really
has to
are.
be like 6 hour drive for them.
Or 7. Yeah, because I've got a couple cousins, one with my last
Mhm.
name and one she married someone else. They have places down there, and then I've got a really good friend from Omaha. He's got a place at Table Rock, and
Mhm.
but I
Oh,
think it's
wow,
just
it's
because it's
farther.
they like it, and it's they don't. There's not a lot other places they could go. It
Yeah,
might be an
because
hour short.
Nebraska doesn't even have lakes. They are on more like the river, aren't they? There's like a big river
Yep,
like that. Is it the Niobrara River? I'm trying to think up near there. I
that's more
forget what
up
it's
by
called.
where your family was. They
Yeah.
usually go in the Missouri River. They do a lot
Oh,
on the
okay.
Missouri River. Yeah,
Okay.
which
Gotcha.
is right. Basically flows into KC too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yep,
And then over in Iowa, they have the lake. Was it Lake Okoboji or something?
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll have a little bit more.
Yeah. So, So then on to your, let's see, the book that you just finished, right? You literally just finished Living a Life of Significance. I love that title. Um, and I explained that. I love that, why you said discover why a successful life is not always a significant life. That is so true. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So just there's a so all three books have the
Mhm.
living a life of significance to them,
Mhm.
but I don't actually have a book called that because I bet somebody else wrote one on that. So the
Okay.
Union books are all about living a life of significance,
Oh,
except at
okay.
different chunks in their lives. But so a couple of things. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 4S before, like S like Sam.
Hmm.
So when, as when we're teenagers, and even into our 30s, we tend to be selfish. It's all about us. And then we want to be successful, which is the second
Hmm.
S. But
Uh-huh.
that's also kind of a form of selfishness.
Mhm.
My house, my car, my job, my,
Look at
which
me, look at me, look at me.
right, which is why when some people kind of are pining after that right out of college, and
Mhm.
then they make these milestones, and they go, oh wait, I'm still not happy. What's up?
Mhm.
Oh, I'll get some more.
Yeah.
Or maybe this isn't what I thought it was. So that's where they're at that stage when they're about
Mhm.
38 to 45, 50, something like that, where they go, maybe this isn't what I'm
All
going.
there is.
Yeah.
You know.
So
Yeah.
selfish and success kind of fit together. They're
Mhm.
out of the. It's just a more success is just more of a. It's more probably more not so obvious that they're being selfish.
Mhm.
But of course you should win awards and all these things. Well, then when people start to get into that, significance, that's when they're starting to take less about what I'm doing and what I'm
Mhm.
getting, and more about what am I giving and what kind of
Mhm.
impact I'm having. So then we're kind of getting away from the selfishness success and starting to transition into impact and leaving
Mhm.
legacy and all that. So that's
Mhm.
the third S. So it's selfish, success, significance. Now the fourth S is frankly a stage that I'm just kind of entering into,
Mhm.
and I'm kicking and screaming. It's called surrender.
Oh. Yeah, you're probably fighting that all the way.
Which I am finding that, and it really it sounds like who'd want that? What are you doing? Throwing in the towel? You giving up? It's like
Yeah.
no, it's not that. Surrendering is letting go of things, or if you could imagine, like I don't know if you've ever been out to like a vineyard before,
Mhm.
and in the spring they're beautiful, but at
Mhm.
harvest time they look horrible because they have cut away anything that takes away from the grapes. Now you might say, well, the
Mhm.
grapes are beautiful, but there's no leaves, hardly any leaves. It's not pretty. It's
Mhm.
it's harvest time, and so
Right.
surrendering is just letting go of those things that might look okay, might be okay, but they're not. They're getting in the way of my destiny.
Hmm.
And it could be a variety of things. One in particular could be ego.
Mhm.
Just so many decisions, bad decisions get made based on too much ego or a lack of
Mhm.
ego.
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, pride and ego can be very dangerous qualities that can make people do a lot of bad things or things they'll regret. That is very true. Because I was saying with my kids, I'm like, arrogance and I can't think of the other words. It will get you every time.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So
and most of the time when you use the
being
word,
prideful and arrogant will get you every time. Hmm.
yeah, and a lot of times people see ego and arrogance as the same. It's like, no, you need an ego.
Hmm.
Too much ego, that's arrogance.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
then most of the people don't have enough
Mhm.
ego.
Well, I can see that too, where they lack that self confidence or their that negative self image that they put in their mind, and they start to believe that they cannot achieve certain things or do certain things, or yeah, self limiting beliefs, as I like to call
Yeah.
them.
Hey, can you say that saying again? It was arrogance and what?
I said arrogance and pridefulness will get you every time.
Yes, every time.
It's
Prideful.
so true. I've seen it happen where people like destroy their lives. I've seen just being, well, they can't, they just are so prideful. They just keep doing the wrong thing because they don't even want to admit to themselves that's not the right thing to do. Just stop.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm wrong. I need to change directions here, or they keep, it's pretty scary to watch sometimes.
It is. And that's a perfect example of something else that needs to be surrendered. There's a lot of things that are good, and I don't want to get into the good to great book. Everybody talks about that.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about there's good things and there's great things. And sometimes good gets in the way of great, so getting back to, that focus, getting back to your superhuman power, getting back to, where you can spend, if you spend time there, it just is just, abundant versus something that is, it's okay. So it could be, some people, they have to let go of that big job, surrender that big job because it's hurting their health. It's hurting their marriage. It's hurting raising their kids. It's hurting their grandkids. I mean, right now there are, for the first time, up to 5 generations in the workplace. 5.
Wow, really? That has to be a first, because usually you hear about the 3, maybe the 4th hanging on there. But is that because people are having to work to older ages, longer in life?
So the oldest baby boomer was born in 46. So they'd be 75. Dick, who I work with, he just retired. He was either a baby boomer or whatever was the one before it. I can't remember.
Well, my mom was born in 42, so she was like the really start of it.
Yeah, 40. I think. Well, she would have been technically the one before baby boomers, but then we got the baby boomers, we got the Gen Ys, we got the Gen Zs, and now we've got them, whatever the newest one is. I mean, for 18, you're another one. So it's just kind of interesting, just to span that many generations. Part of it's just that we live longer. I think you've already kind of alluded to this. I do not see myself retiring at 67. I mean, I'm just like, that would make me depressed. I'm 57 now. I'm like, I only have 10 more years. Now, God willing, I have more than 10 years, but I mean, I'd like to go another 17. I'd like to go to 75. I mean, I'm not climbing up in attics and ripping out insulation. I mean, it's not that hard,
Yeah.
So, and I enjoy it. I mean, it's every time I talk to a really young group like these guys over at KU, I'm just going, oh God, I hope they're. What's the old fart doing here? What the hell does he know? Like, oh my God, that was so boring. I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm probably more concerned about talking to them than any other. And I just do the same. And then afterwards I go, well, I still got it for this year.
Well, I'm not going to admit I'm old till I'm like 80. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, even at 80, you don't have to be old.
That's true. I'll probably raise the number once I get closer to it. But I mean, I just think you have to think young, and like I tell Connor, I'm like, you too will not be cool someday. It happens to everyone.
Yeah, life is an equalizer. Well, my mom's
you have kids. Your kids will be laughing at you too. So.
Oh, I know, and I say things to my parents and go, well, "That's coming back, I guarantee it." But like my mom's 88, and sometimes she's harder to get around, and she goes,
"Yeah,
oh my gosh," she goes, "I just feel so old." And I'm like, "Mom, you are old." But you're not old. I am. Not old up here, but you are 88 years old. I mean, come on, but she just thinks she should just be able to do everything she got to do before. And I love that. I mean, I know,
I did too.
Critical of her. I just think it's kind of, I'm just starting to feel so old. I'm like, yeah, you're 88.
Yeah. I mean, that's getting up there, and then sometimes you think, how old do you really want to live to? What's your quality of life? You have it's things you got to think about, but.
Well, and that's also part of the surrender. Now, life is going to force us to surrender things. But I tell you, there's some things we can make choices about before they get taken from us. I mean, COVID, that's another example. It took things away from us.
Yeah.
And then, 10 weeks, 10 months, whatever it was later, we can take them back. But some people are just saying, I'm not taking that one back.
Right.
I'm surrendering that right now. I thought I couldn't live without it, and I was perfectly fine. There were other things I thought I could live without that I'm not perfectly fine. So it just allows you to kind of shift,
priorities, get straight, because you only have so much time. I mean, time is something that you can never get back. And I think for me, I thought, I just need to be more mindful, purposeful about my priorities and spending. Because I already feel like even doing that, I still feel like I still can't get it all done in a day, But yeah, it's very important to do that. Most definitely.
And we'll never get it all done, which is
Mm-mm. I
that's hard.
know. Yeah, I know. That's just an illusion. I've
It's
read
hard
that
to
in so many
hear, but it's
books.
true. But
Yeah.
what matters? Back to
Hmm.
surrendering, and I'm a big fan of like vital functions. Instead
Hmm.
of to-do lists, vital functions. Like what are the three things that if I don't do today, there are adverse consequences, and everything else,
Hmm.
some of it needs to be done, some of it doesn't, and some things just fall off the list. If you just give it
Uh-huh.
enough. But the
Yeah.
vital functions, that I could lose a client or not get a client, or um, I don't know, I can't even think right now. Missed
Yeah.
opportunity to have an
Mhm.
impact. Those are the things that I want to make sure that I'm making time for.
I've never heard that term before. It's
Uh,
biofunctions.
Vital,
Oh,
Vital.
vital.
Yeah, I know. I don't always speak.
Vital functions. Okay.
Vital.
Vital functions. That's interesting. But yeah, that is very true that um now, I'm a big list maker. Like every day I gotta make my list, but I always have the two or three that I try to say this absolutely has to be done. But I'm not that good about letting the other stuff go. I need to surrender those, and if they don't get done, that's okay.
Or you do them, you make time, you do them after you've got the vital stuff done, because
Hmm.
I'm okay with a list. I'm just not okay with just kind of starting at the top, which may
Uh-huh.
not be a vital function. Or a lot of
Hmm.
people do the easy stuff first.
Right. You should do the hard stuff in the morning, they say, when you're
Yeah, or
fresh.
the stuff that's vital, vital and
Hmm.
hard, and then to your point, working around, like some people are morning people, some people aren't. Like everybody
Hmm.
says, why don't you work out in the morning? Because I don't like to work out in the morning.
I,
I do like to work out, but morning is not my thing. I
mm-mm.
prefer at night. So I don't know why, but if that was it is a vital function. But if it was, I need to work when it's best, and not just because someone's shitting all
Hmm.
over me.
Yeah.
You should do it in the morning. I go, I don't should have to do anything. I can do it
Right.
as long as I'm getting it done.
Hmm.
But I'm just feel more flexible and limber. It just gives me energy. And somebody say, I can't work out at night because I can't go to sleep. Well, then don't do it. Go do it in the
Right.
morning. There's not like this like code that just everybody has to
Yeah,
do the
that you
same.
have to do it, or do it at lunchtime. Some people work
Yeah.
out over their lunch.
Yeah. I used to do that,
Yeah.
but for some reason
Hmm.
it doesn't work so well anymore. But yeah, that worked better for me than 5 in the morning. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I would never work out if I was told I had to get up and be at the gym at 6. There's no way. I just wouldn't do it because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
I take an hour just to drink my coffee every morning, for God's
No,
sakes.
there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean,
You
if
know.
you all of a sudden can't, and obviously you get some enjoyment out of that, so
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I think we got to be careful not to, think there's just a way to
Mhm.
significance or surrender. I mean, kind of run your own race. What works
Mhm.
best for you? That doesn't mean you get a pass. It just
Right.
means you don't have to do it the way somebody else does it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, it's once again standing in your sovereignty or your truth and what works for you, what
Yeah.
makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own happiness, and not relying on people to make us happy, or people shouldn't really be relying on us to make them happy. Although, partner, you should be adding joy to their lives and love
Sure.
and all that. But at the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for your own life, and that's your sovereignty.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yep. It's right. And even with a life partner, I mean, it's not your job to make them happy. That's going to,
Mhm.
to your point, it's you can bring joy to their life, but because that could be exhausting and still not
Mhm.
get there. And then somehow it's your
Mhm.
fault.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's all your fault.
it has to come from within too, but that doesn't mean we can't bring
Yeah.
more joy to someone's
And I
life.
think I think I don't women deal with this a lot of feeling like they have to be like add value to everybody's life, or be the helper, or make people happy, or and I just came to grips years ago. I'm like, I can't make everybody happy. It's just that's impossible, and you just do what you can do, and then you have to set boundaries, especially as a woman. Like, no, I would love to help you with that, but I really just can't commit the time right now. And being honest with yourself, because I think people bring on their own unhappiness by forcing themselves to do things just because they feel like they have to. And that doesn't mean that you're mean, because you only have so much time, so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In general, women are more giving. That's a good thing. But it's interesting. This is kind of a side note, but I just thought you might find it interesting. But yeah, there were two of us guys that were training and coaching for like the first 15 years. And we would get comments from females. Why aren't there more females here? And we go, we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like we had this plan that we want to be all guys. Right. It's just, I'm just like, I don't know, but it's been 30-70 this entire time, and I really started introspective about it. But then there's all female franchisees out there. I go, oh, there's the answer. So I called up the female franchisees and say, hey, I'm curious, like, what's your men-women split? 50-50, they go, oh, about 30-70. You go, wow, you got only 70% men? No, 30% women.
Huh.
That's what I thought. Because I just thought maybe they just, because we're guys or something. I don't know. But back to the giving, there's a story to all this. Sometimes women don't give to themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's interesting. A guy's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to invest in myself. I think it's harder for a female in general to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they just need to get over that and realize if you want to achieve certain goals or certain whatever in your life, that you do deserve that if that makes you happy and that's what your truth is or what your calling is, that you need to go for it. Most definitely.
Yeah.
It's
interesting. I just assumed it was something we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just not wrong, but that we could improve in some way, or we, as we hired a female trainer, and and it just wasn't moving the needle.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's just, I guess the needle can't be moved a whole lot. So.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's still really interesting. I'm reading some of your bullet points here. Trapped by your success rather than freed. That's kind of interesting. So you're feeling like somebody may be really successful. Let's say they're a super successful doctor, but then when you say rather than they're freed, because they're still feeling there's lack, something missing. They're not free. They may not even know what they're free to accomplish. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a really good example, because they have all this education and, they're just kind of all in. And so for them to leave being a doctor.
Yeah. So many years of school. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, they're trapped by it. And then plus the other thing is, maybe not as much as
great money,
but they're making good money. And what else could they do to make whatever they're making? But I see it a lot in just people in business, like especially pre-pandemic, these road warriors. Yeah, well, I can't leave this job because I'm making $250 here, and if I do that, if I don't travel, I probably make half of that, so I can't really do that. It's that kind of thinking where the success has actually trapped them as opposed to freeing them.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Because then you're at that standard of living. But then, if you're really truly that unhappy, then that's when you need to do some deep thinking, some real soul searching, and say, well, maybe we can live on less money. Yeah. And I'm going to be happier. But of course, you got to have your family on board with that one, I'm sure.
Well, and especially the spouse, because sometimes they're accustomed to certain things, and it can cause a lot of friction. And so everybody just kind of puts up and just does it, and but the problem is it probably manifests itself in something else, like when they're home or if they're not home, or so anyway. But that's where, but significance, you can be significant. If you're significant, you're automatically successful. If you're successful, you're not automatically significant, because it could still be all about you. And even though you're doing well, it's not like people are going, wow, that person changed my life.
Yeah.
That's significance. When people will say, that was a turning point for me. It might have been just like 5 minutes.
Right.
That's when you're starting to get out of the success part into the significance. And then when you're in your superhuman power, that's more likely to happen.
Right. where you're just taking time, because you never know how you could affect somebody negatively or positively just by a few words.
I
That's
agree.
always tell people, be careful what you say, because that goes out into the universe too as energy that you're putting out, whether that's good or bad. I think a lot of people, I'm reading your other bullet point, frustrated your success is never enough. I think I was caught in that a little bit with this building, with Al and I building our company, and it was just, you kind of get on this, it's just never ends. You're onto that. I can remember we first started out, my first year in sales was like $37,000. Like, it was like nothing. And then in our industry, then it was like, oh, if we could just get to 300. Oh, if we could just get to 500. Oh gosh, I got to hit that $1 million, because I know only 4% of all women-owned businesses ever hit that. And it just, you just keep pushing and pushing.
I just saw a stat on that on
Yeah.
LinkedIn where it's 3% now.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
what I just thought. I just in the last day or two, there was someone, because I didn't know that, and I thought 3%. Wow, I had no idea. But maybe it's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It's closer.
Yeah.
But,
Either way, it's not a real high percentage by any means, but yeah, I can see people getting caught up in that. When is enough enough? But then when you're a type A personality, it's hard not to do that. You're really competitive, and you're just, but for me personally, it was finding that balance, I guess. Like in 2018, I was a workaholic. I worked 6 days a week. I wasn't listening to my little voice in my head that said, you need to cut back on those hours. You need to cut back. You're killing yourself. Stop. Then I ended up in the hospital in October of that year with a burst appendix. And ended up in the hospital for 10 days. But I'll tell you what, that gave me a lot of time to think, and really kind of reevaluate. That was a turning point for me, that, you can work yourself into the grave. And luckily I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke, and I recovered. But yeah, you have to balance your life, especially when you're type A overachiever, because you can get caught up in that success,
Yep. And that type A in and of itself isn't bad. To your point, it depends what it's focused on. So one of the things, like when you were at 300,000 and you wanted $1 million, 300,000 was your A. That's where you currently are. And B, where you want to go, is $1 million. The problem with that striving is sometimes we're not enjoying where we are.
For sure.
Or, I'm not saying you felt this way, but I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when I get to 300,000. I'll be happy when I get to $1 million. Then we get there and, we celebrate for a nanosecond. And then, but the feelings are still there, like, oh, I still need something else. And so the unintentional person just keeps trying to get more, which is what part of the book's about. There's one person who just thinks, well, I just need this, I just need that, and then and always came back to the same thing, where I'm still not, feeling the way I want to feel. But you can be a type A about who you are.
Yeah,
and,
that's a good point.
A lot of psychologists, have touted, find your voice and find yourself, and it's just kind of like, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
It sounds good, but how do you find your voice? How do you find yourself? And a word I like to use instead is to create yourself. And that could be nothing more than a word that you really resonate with. And you say, now, if I was purposeful, how would I be acting in my business with my employees? Purposeful is just a word. It doesn't have to be your word.
Right. Yeah.
Or if I was humble was my word, how would I be responding to my spouse? How would I be responding to my clients and prospects? And how would my coworkers, so sometimes it's the word that instead of striving for something, we, in a weird way, we attract it.
Yeah.
And that's it's scary, because I'm 99% sure that that's the B. But when you attract it, that B could be a lot smaller than what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's true.
You can attract something completely bigger, better than that little B that you had in your head. But it's because of who you are versus what you do.
Well, I think for me personally, I think it's helped me. I've started doing a lot more like meditation, where I just take time to quiet
Love
my
it.
mind and kind of try to listen to, the higher self, that little voice in your head. I think that has helped me. I don't want to use that word purposeful again, but I guess,
It's a good word.
more meaning. I don't know if meaning is a good word. I just, because I think you do. I've reached that point. Like, we all want to keep growing, but right now I'm really focused on making us a better company. And I've stumbled across that conscious capitalism. I don't know if you've heard of that. So I'm going to start incorporating that. I'm just trying to build a better, sage restoration. I think that's kind of where I'm at. So that's my purpose, I think, right now. And
Well,
I there for a few years, it's
forever.
so busy. I look back, I'm like, it's like kind of a blur some of the years, and I think I have a lot more clarity now. So
Right.
a lot of that may be in maturity and growing your business and just being good with where you're at,
Mhm. Well, and better back to the surrender, it may be, not being rude or anything, but it may be that certain size things that got you, deals that
Mhm.
got you to where you aren't going to get you to where you want to go. Or it could be
Mhm.
working with too big of companies,
Mhm.
because that can sometimes put a company in a really volatile spot. Back to feeling
Mhm.
trapped. If they represent 35% of my overall business, even though I have 20 other clients,
Mhm.
they're kind of calling the shots. I might as well just quit my job and go, or quit my business and go work for them, because they have a
Yeah.
lot of control. So it's things like that. Back to the surrender is,
Mhm.
surrendering smaller things, and sometimes it's surrendering bigger things that just aren't good for you. They're
Mhm.
okay or aren't great for you. They're good, but they're not
Right.
great.
Right. And it's just opening your eyes to see those, for sure. And then your last bullet point, because I know we're running out of time, concerns you might be running out of time impacting the life legacy you want. Does that have to do with your surrender? You get to that
Yeah.
point?
Well, and I think,
Mm-hmm.
even at my age, I feel like I've got a lot of time left.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
do
you
I?
do. You're only 57, for Pete's
I
sakes.
know, but I had two grandparents that died in their 60s.
Oh, that's not good.
I know, but we don't know how much time we have.
No.
But I think this idea that, I'll do that tomorrow, next year,
Mhm.
when I retire, all that.
Yeah.
The time is now. If it's something that's truly important to you, like even with
Mm-hmm.
these young kids I talk to, which is the youngest group I think I've ever spoken to,
Mm-hmm.
um, they, if they can start to get that into their psyche now,
Mm-hmm.
things are going to be a lot more effortless. But I think most of them are going, I'll do
Yeah.
that when I graduate from college. I'll do that once I become a parent. I'll do that when I'm whatever. But that's the idea but after a while, I mean, if you just, sometimes one of the night terrors I have is I wake up and I think, God, 10 years ago, that was just like yesterday. And then I
I
fast
know.
forward 10 years in my life. I'm like, what? That short of time, I'm going to be 67.
I know.
It's kind of like, that's the night terror.
Yeah. Or,
What?
I say we're in the home stretch. Because you start losing your parents, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're past halftime. I think I'm entering into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, if
So,
you figure 80
yeah.
as an average age, 20, 40, 60, 57, I'm getting close to the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. And so I think, but then, if we can be, kind of more mindful of that, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think I should be waiting until January 1 or next month.
Mhm.
Like, why not start now? What can I do now
Yeah.
to get momentum in that area that I believe is part of my significance?
Well, this just came to me. So they say that when you start a business, you should actually, um, have an idea what your exit strategy is going to be, even though you're a startup. Okay, you should be looking down the road. Well, the same thing is what you're saying is in your life, that when you get out of high school, because, or maybe even when you're a kid, if you're that insightful, maybe you could look that. But
Right.
for most people, when you go to college, you're getting your first jobs. That's when you should really be thinking ahead. That's how you need to do your speeches. That's devise your exit strategy there, 20-year-olds, because you can't see it now because
Right.
you're just young and you haven't lived the life and experiences yet. But that would be kind of a cool little take on
I like it.
trying to look down the road and say, what do I want to be doing? How can I be prepared to go do fulfill, charitable things, or I want to become let's say you love to climb, you're a climber and you want to become a climbing instructor as you retire, or whatever. How can you look down the road and plan that? Because that might get some people that,
I agree.
you know.
Yeah. When it's the old adage, especially
Mhm.
when starting a business, you're not ready to start a business until you're ready to lose a business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then that's
And
like your
let's
baby.
face it,
That's like, hard.
most of
It's
them
really,
do. I mean, I don't know what the latest stat I heard, but I think it's 80 some percent fail in the first year. But I think part of it is because they're playing it safe, or they're whatever they're doing, they're
Mhm.
not ready. They're holding on so tight to it that they end up losing it. Versus, if I lose this, I'll be okay, but I'm going to take chances because if I lose it, I'm going to be okay. As
Mhm.
opposed to if I lose this, it's devastating, so I'm not taking any chances.
Right. Well, most success doesn't come without taking some chances. That's for sure. I mean, even starting a new job. I mean, you're still going to have a paycheck, but if you're leaving an old job, it's still scary to go to a new place, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Dan, I'm going to read this. I haven't read your 3 books.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
definitely going to. Can
Well,
I
I can
download
set
those
you
on
up.
Kindle?
Yeah, actually,
Oh,
can you download them on Kindle? I do believe the
we have
first.
theirunionbooks.com.
Yes, so that's where you can order the hard copy books. But
Okay.
if you go out to Amazon, you can download the downloadable version. The
Right. Yeah, I
audio,
did that.
audio version. Yeah. So
Okay.
we have not gotten the third book out on Amazon for whatever reason. But if you go to the reunionbooks.com, you can get access to it. But I don't think you can get the audio on there. You have to go out to Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, I usually just download them to like my iPad and
Yeah.
read them that way. So,
Yep.
but I still love reading books the old-fashioned way, actually really turning pages, It actually feels
I
kind
do
of good
too.
just have
I
a
mean,
book
it's
in your
just kind of that tactical and yeah.
hand.
Um, but yeah, if you go, I mean, I shouldn't have called it an audio book. It's not an audio book. It's just a PDF that you can
Yeah.
download through Amazon.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Dan, I'll send you the link to the show,
Okay.
just in case you want to put it out on
I'd love
your
to.
social
Love
media and
to.
stuff. But I so appreciate you coming to my show and getting a chance to catch up. And God, I feel like so many people I haven't seen in so long, and then you
I
see them,
know.
you're just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
And
I
then
love
I
being
love,
on your show. I love it.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think you
So
came to our little party in April, didn't you? When you
yeah,
won that sales
yeah, you
thingy.
won your award. Was that
Yeah.
the another Stevie Award?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So congratulations again on that
Thank you.
too.
Yeah, I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but it was just last April.
I know it's time. It's like we're in a time warp or something. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Well,
All
good. Well,
right. Well,
thanks
I
for
hope to
having me
see you
on. I
sooner
always
rather
enjoy
than
it.
later.
I always
Huh?
enjoy it. I always enjoy
Yeah.
being on the show.
All right. Well, I'll have you on again.
Okay, please do.
All right. You take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.